1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse you.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday, December the 5th edition, 2018, of the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr. I am your co-host, Mr. Bobby, and you're listening to it via TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go on the world's greatest radio. Again, the Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and this is radio the way it should be heard. You can call us if you would like, and we certainly would appreciate that, at 1-877-932-9766. You can also Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com. You can also access the show by going to facebook.com/talktainment, and you can get the show there after it's put up. But the best way to get in contact with us is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, and there's a big sign there that says Listen Live. And that's it. You're there. And while you're there, hit the subscribe and the like button. We'll be glad you did. Okay, we have an interesting topic today, one that Mr. Fuller has addressed many times. And the title of the show, which we will be mentioning throughout the program, will be The Role of Distraction in the System of White Supremacy Racism. Mr. Fuller has his thoughts on that, and you are certainly welcome to call in and share yours or ask questions. You also do not have to stay on subject. You can go to any subject that you'd like to do. Okay, with all that being said and out of the way, let me introduce to some and present to others Mr. Neely Fuller, Jr., and as usual, my custom is to ask Mr. Fuller. Mr. Fuller, how are you this day?
I'm still learning.
You are still learning. Okay, now, let's get into this distraction. Distraction that the white supremacy, in capital letters, racism, presents to us. What are your thoughts when you come to this, the use of distractions by the world's strongest government?
Well, distractions are essential if you're trying to deceive someone. That's in football, basketball, most of the competitive sports and whatnot. You make people think that you're going to do one thing when you do something else. So if you're going to cheat someone or rob someone, you might use distractions. Distractions are used in all military strategies that are successful. I think Sun Tzu, someone once said about as military strategy, you make a noise in the east and strike in the west. And that is a form of distraction. So in the system of racism, which means you're trying to fool people and deceive people in such manner that you can take advantage of them, distractions, the art or the science of distraction is a central strategy of the system of racism. Racism meaning white supremacy. So naturally they do this all the time in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. And they make sure that they do that in order to consolidate the power that they already have. That's how they help get the power in the first place, by pretending to do one thing while doing something else. And that's how they have kept it ever since. Those people who believe in racism and or white supremacy. so much so that it became the strongest form of government ever produced in the minds of people of the planet Earth, and the strongest religion within that government, the strongest political system, and the strongest religious system. No political system, no religious system has ever been proven itself to be stronger than the system of white supremacy. You say that in capital letters, the system of white supremacy. The strongest government, the most efficient government ever conceived in the minds of people. But it's an evil government because it's deliberately designed to do harm to people. Deliberately designed to do that.
Okay. Deliberately designed to do that. Now, to break that down or break it up, if it were or if it is possible, does our strategy, or what is the strategy against the dismemberment or the breakup of this distraction?
To reveal the distractions. See, in other words, it's like people playing cards and someone is cheating. Mm-hmm. If you point out the person who is cheating, then the game is really over. If you do that successfully. If you can say that out of 5 or 6 people sitting around a card table, you can say that that person number 3 is the person who is cheating and winning everybody's money by using card tricks, distractions, then that game is over because now everybody knows that that person is cheating. And so once you reveal what's going on, what somebody's strategy is for doing someone harm, then it's all downhill for the person who is doing the harm from that point on, because people are not being misled. People are not being confused. It's hard for people to pretend that something isn't happening when it is happening, and they know that it's happening. People will, in some instances, will try to do that, but it's hard to really know and understand something and pretend that you don't know and understand it. And that's a very difficult thing to do. Once truth is revealed to a person, and they know that that's the truth, it's hard for that person to pretend that something that is true is not true, even though people sometimes try. Many people try to do this on a daily basis, because they want to believe something is pleasant when it really isn't. Something pleasant is happening. Something that is happening should not be happening, but since it is happening, the person tries to make him or herself believe that that thing that is happening, that is very harmful to them, is not happening. Like a person has a disease, and they keep walking around trying to tell themselves that they don't have it, when they know for a fact that they have it. It's very difficult for that person to function. The mind won't accept an untruth once the truth is revealed. The mind fights it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, with that being said, what is the difference between a lie and distraction, or are there similar traits? What's the difference, or how can we tell the difference between a lie and a distraction?
It depends on what the intent was. So sometimes people, because we're just talking about truth and non-truth. Something is either true or false. So if a person is trying to fool someone deliberately, a person may be fooling someone because they're a fool, all right? So they're going around spreading some information because that they believe, but the information that they're spreading is not true, but they believe is true. So that person is really not lying. That person is just saying something is not true. And that's really the way that you talk to people, too. I mean, in a non-combative way. That's the best way to talk to people about anything that's not true. You never tell a person that they're lying. You never call a person a liar. You just simply say what you're saying is not true. That's the best way. That's the compensatory way. That's the polite and courteous way. But it's the same thing. You're just saying, because the person may even question you, are you saying that I'm lying to you? And the answer is no, I'm not saying that. Because lying reveals intent. You intend to fool me. I'm just saying that the statement that you made about the bridge is still there that fell down last night, and you're saying it's still there, and I'm saying it's not because I just checked. I just went down and looked at where that bridge was, and that bridge fell down in that storm. The bridge is no longer there. But you believe that the bridge is there because you came across that bridge a little earlier. And when you came across the bridge was there. So you believe you're telling the truth. But I checked since you came across that bridge is down. So when you go around telling people that the bridge is still there, you are not lying as far as your intent is concerned because you believe that the bridge is still there. Because you came across the bridge at 5 o'clock this morning. But when I checked at 6 o'clock, the bridge was down because the bridge went down after 5 o'clock.
Wow. Okay. You said something about something that is either true or false. Well, let's put it this way. President Trump has allegedly, according to several different sources, I don't know how many days he's been in, 600 or something, but has told or allegedly told 600, I think it's 6,000, between 2,000 and 6,000. Now, this is what the publications have said, lies throughout the entire time that he's been in office. Now, if that's true, because I certainly haven't checked to see if all of these are true, but credible sources, even this morning before I came in, said that he is lying. They called him a liar. So what say you to credible information and credible news sources that did in fact call the president of the United States, said that he's lying?
Well, the people who choose to do that. But I'm saying, according to what I have written, the best way, one of the 10 stops is not to be discourteous. So out of courtesy, you simply, when a person says something that you know is not true, you just simply say, sir, your statement that you just made is not true. And the person may say, like I said a few minutes ago, the person may say, are you saying that I'm lying? No, sir. I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm saying the statement that you just made is not true. Well, it sounds like you're calling me a liar. Well, it may sound that way, but that's not what I am saying. I'm saying that the statement that you just made a few minutes ago about that legislation is not true. It's simply not true. I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm saying that statement that you made is not true. Well, it sounds like you're calling me a liar. Well, it may sound that way, but that's not what I'm doing. That's not my intent. My intent is not to expose you as a liar. My intent is simply to inform the people that I am talking to and what this subject is about and who is going to affect. That the statement that was just made by you, sir, is not true. And that's all I have to say. And I will repeat that over and over again, no matter how many times you say that I'm calling you a liar, when I have not done that.
Okay. So before we go to the station break here, what you're saying to me, and maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that at all times when we deal with people, particularly people who are or could be suspected of being white supremacists, to stay in the compensatory mode. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yes, that's the codified way. The codified way is try to, the basic statement is, do your very best to be more courteous than anybody in your presence when you're having discussions or having conversations and whatnot. Don't let anybody be more courteous than you. That's one of the 10 stops. Do not be discourteous. Always be courteous, regardless of who you're talking to, regardless of what the setting is. Try to show maximum courtesy. And you do this by not name calling, because that's one of the 10 stops, according to the code book. You don't call anybody a name except the name that the person wants to be called. See, and so when you call a person, when you say that a person is a liar, all right, that's name calling. So you avoid that if you can. Avoid all name calling, and just say what the person is doing, and say whether or not that's correct or incorrect. Always stick to, depersonalize it as much as you possibly can, and stick to what is happening, and ascertain whether what is happening should happen or shouldn't happen. That's in everything. Either something should happen or it shouldn't happen. Either something is constructive or is non-constructive. And these are the categories to focus on. And who's doing it, that will take care of itself. If someone is doing something they shouldn't be doing, you just say, well, what was done should not have been done regardless of who did it. Okay? So that depersonalizes it. It's not personal, it's business. And you try to keep it as close to that business viewpoint as you possibly can. Everything. You try to stay as close to what is being done should not be done. Everything in the universe, applies to something done or not done. And everything that is done or not done should be based on whether it should be done. And you point out everything that shouldn't be done. And with the information that you have, everything that should be done. And then let the chips fall where they may on who's doing it or who's not doing it.
Okay, TalkTainmentRadio.com is a 24/7, no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, politics, and here's one that I am going to share with you. It's At the Table with Al Warner. Now, all you have to do to get in contact with this show is go to the TalkTainmentRadio.com homepage, click on programs for the scheduled times, and see what this program is all about. And while you are there are other programs you can scout and see. All this from TalkTainmentRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host on The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr., and today's subject is the role of distraction in the system of white supremacy racism. You have any questions or a comment, you may call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. Before we move to the Gmails, Mr. Fuller, since we are talking or speaking of distraction, so with distraction being one of the tools that the racist white supremacists use, with this distraction, would that be one of the things that can knock a person off of the compensatory mode that we should be on at all times when dealing with them?
The question is,
with the racist use of distraction, would that be one of the tools that they use to knock us off of our compensatory mode?
Oh, sure. It's nothing but deceit. If a person is doing it deliberately, you're just talking about deception.
Okay.
Deception means you're fooling someone. You're showing intent to do one thing when you're really doing something else, usually some type of harm. Okay? If a person is just playing a little game and everybody understands that it's a game, then that's a different thing. But in a war, you have distractions. You're trying to do someone harm. You're trying to fool somebody. I mean, so that you can get them in a position where you can do them serious harm. That's how you win wars. Particularly if you're up to doing something that should not be done. And the white supremacists are excellent at every type of distraction, including they're the best that there is when it comes to those white people who believe in white supremacy, who are highly skilled, the sophisticated, the refined ones. They are the best in the world when it comes to taking all sides of every discussion, every viewpoint, every controversial racial controversy. They know how to take all sides. I mean, very skillfully and very quickly. They can do it. To do what? To cause confusion. Because, see, when you know how to take all sides of every conversation, you confuse people, and then you wind up holding all the cards, so to speak, because you've taken all sides. You've taken a position of this person is saying this, and this other person is saying that, and you as 5 people involved, and you're the 5th person, and you have taken all the sides of the other 4 in such a way that they don't know what you're doing or whose side you're on. I mean, they're scratching their heads, and you're the only person sitting at the table who's not scratching your head because you're manipulating everybody, the other 4 people. But they don't know they're being manipulated because you're so skilled at what you're doing. You're real tricky with words. So you wind up making all the decisions for all the other 4 people sitting there, and they don't know that you made the decisions. They can know how to make it look like you made the decision, and they will close the meeting. I mean, and say, well, since you all have agreed on this, and I'm not too sure about it, but it seems like you all have all agreed to this, so we'll rubber stamp it right now and make it into law. And you'll be sitting over there. You're the 3rd person, maybe, out of the 5, and you're scratching your head, saying, "Wait a minute, am I agreeing to this? Or what's going on? I mean, what did I really agree to this? Well, it sounds. I guess I did, but I mean, no, I didn't come in here with this that I have written on my notes and whatnot. Doesn't correspond to what we're rubber stamping here. See, but that person sitting there, who is that master manipulator.
Yes, sir.
They've taken sides in such a manner that everybody is befuddled except that person who is the master manipulator. And the white supremacists are the greatest in the world at that type of thing.
Okay. Let's go to the Gmail here. This is, okay, here it is. Recently, this person, Edo, has said, recently I have heard many suspected white supremacist groups, most namely the alt-right, complain that white people are going to become a minority in America, and they are seriously advocating for a reduction in non-white immigrants by any means necessary. But this type of complaint seems odd to me, as white people are currently the global minority, yet white supremacy remains as the most powerful religion and form of government on the planet. So if white people became the minority in America, couldn't they still be the most powerful group in the country? And would the world via racism white supremacy? Or is this complaint really about something else?
Well, for one thing, the white supremacists, since we're talking about manipulation, we're talking about, what's the word?
Distraction.
Distractions. This is just another form of deception. The white supremacists, first of all, there's no such thing as borders to a white supremacist. So when they're talking about people coming across borders, what they are doing, they set it up so that people have to leave where they are.
Okay.
To come somewhere else. But they'll make it look like they didn't have anything to do with it when they engineered the whole thing. So people, when you see non-white people moving around, trying to make better conditions for themselves, the white supremacists cause these movements, either directly or indirectly. They made it very difficult for the people to function in a constructive manner where they were. So they know that the people are going to move, and they know that the people are going to gravitate toward wherever the most power is, wherever there are more provisions for people, more food, better shelter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Better of everything, because the most powerful people always have the best. See, so they already know. They're coming where I am. I'm going to pretend that I'm going to stonewall them and all like that, but they can't get anything, even when they come in my presence, that I don't give them. No, people seem to be overlooking that. I don't care how many non-white people move around anywhere on the planet. The white supremacists say, you can move anywhere. You can come sit in my front yard and whatnot, but you'll just sit there and starve to death if I don't want to give you no food. It doesn't make any difference how close you are to me or how far away, because I own you wherever you are on the planet. If you're 1,000 miles away, 10,000 miles away, I own you there, because I own everything on the planet that's worth anything, including you. So whether you are near to me or far, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get anything from me that I don't want you to have. And I have everything, and you have nothing, including yourself. Only you don't know it. You think you have some kind of government where you are. Why? Because I told you you had one. That's the only reason you believe you have one, because I told you you had one. But you don't have a government if you're a non-white person on this planet. I'm your government, and I'm a white supremacist. So I manipulate you to move and make people think that I'm stonewalling you, that I don't want you nowhere near me and all like that. But you can't get any closer to me than I want you to come. Because I got all kinds of ways of stopping you. And I don't have to stop you with no barbed wire or walls or nothing like that. I can stop you on the way here. Because I can make you drop dead, and you don't even know why you dropped dead. I mean, I have all kind of mysterious poisons I can put into the air. So you because you crowded all together, coming this way, you all got some kind of disease that rapidly spread and wiped most of you out. So you went screaming and yelling back to where you came from, trying to get away from the disease. Because I put it along your route. Every step that you took, you went right into the area where I had all these germs. I knew where you were going. I knew how you were going to get there before you left. So I put disease in the areas that you had to pass through. Or I put some type of chemicals in the food and whatnot. So you were dropping dead on the way.
Okay, excuse me,
So you stopped coming. See, they know all kinds of ways. They got hundreds of ways. They burn midnight oil thinking this up.
Okay.
50 years ahead of people.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Fuller. I'm going to let you resume that thought after we take this break. Okay, Mr. Fuller, we were speaking about distractions, and you were right into that. Would you like to continue that or do the second part of this person's question?
I can do the second part of the person's question.
Okay.
Right.
The second part says this: when a suspected white supremacist asks a victim of racism, quote, what should white people do to combat racism, end of quote. How should the victim of racism respond?
A victim of racism talking to a white person about how, making suggestions about what a white person can do?
Yeah, this person said, when a suspected white supremacist asks a victim of racism, quote, what should white people do to combat racism, end of quote. How?
Well, there's a long list of suggestions that a non-white person can make to a white person about what a white person can do that's in the code book. But to since I'm not looking at it directly right now, two of the things that are right at the top of that list. First of all, never, ever say anything to a non-white person that is not true. Because a lot of white people are always asking, they're making statements, rather. They're saying, black people are always marching and complaining and whining about this and whining, and they never give you any details about doing anything. They just say that we don't like the way things are. And they break windows and turn cars over and foam at the mouth and shout slogans and whatnot, but they never go into any details about what it is that they want us to do. They call us all these names: racists, white supremacists, bigots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they're not businesslike. They just believe in running up and down the street, throwing things, and yelling, and insults, and calling us names. And we white people who want to help don't know what to do because they're too busy calling us names and not going into any details, not acting like they're going to sit down and do business in a sane, methodical manner to solve their problems. They just say, we don't like it the way it is, and we are racist, and blah, 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 blah. So the code approaches this, the counter-racist code, the suggestions that I make, because many times they're telling the truth about that. Back in the 1960s, some white people were asking that same question, just in that way. What do you want us to do? Name something. And they just say, well, they say, well, what do you want? See, they use that word want. And I remember in one instance, their answer was, from a group of black people, was, well, what do we want? What do you got? Okay? And everybody laughed. See, but it's no laughing matter. I mean, when it comes right down to when the rubber meets the road. So the first order of business, I thought about that. That's why I started putting it in the book. Oh, when they ask you a specific question, what do you want? And you want to get into specifics, say, well, now, first thing we want is don't ever say anything to a non-white person that's not true. Now, a lot of people will say, well, we want housing, we want better jobs, we want et cetera, et cetera. We can get to that later. That's on the list, too. But top of the list is don't say anything to a non-white person that's not true. Why? Why is that in the textbook for victims of white supremacy, right at the top of the list of what you say to white people when they ask, what do you people want? Why is that at the top of the list? Because white supremacy thrives on falsehood. This is the first thing they do when they get ready to mess over people, is start saying things that are not true and get people to believe it in all areas of activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. The white supremacists make sure that they have a whole arsenal, a whole warehouse of things that they say that are not true. Because when you fool people, you got them. When you got people completely dizzy, walking around, with a head full of non-truths. Everything you have said to them, or most of the things you have said, have turned out not to be true at all. That person is just groggy right from the lies that they're getting, all right, the non-truths. So the first order of business, don't say anything. If you want to really help, don't say anything ever to a non-white person. If you're a white person, don't say anything ever to a non-white person that is not true. Make sure that what you are saying is absolute truth. Don't say anything ever that's not true. And number two, because I named two things. That's the first one. Number two, right at the top of the list. And these two things will go a long ways. Don't say anything that's not true. And number two is don't withhold constructive information. The minute, on a job or anywhere else, the minute you get that constructive information, pass it on to a needy, a non-white person who is in need. That information, and they don't have that information, is constructive information. Don't withhold constructive information. Don't keep it to yourself. Or pass it on to other white people and skip over the non-white people. Don't do that. In fact, make it a priority to give it to the person who needs it most. And in many cases, I'll say, probably in most cases, it'll be a non-white person that needs that constructive information. Constructive information goes a long ways. Information is power. Constructive information is power all over the world. All right? So don't withhold constructive information. The white supremacists are skillful at doing that. They'll give you a whole bunch of information, but it'll be non-constructive. They'll rush to give a non-white person a whole bunch of ideas, a whole bunch of information to send them down a path that's headed for destruction. So we want constructive information, all of that constructive information, any constructive information that you have, anything that you think will wind up really helping this non-white person, give it to them immediately. Make a beeline to them deliberately and do it. Those two things will go a long ways.
Okay. Let's see here. 1-877-932-9766 is the number to get in contact with the show, or you can Gmail me, as some have. The numeral 7, Mr. Bobby at Gmail, B-O-B-B-Y at gmail.com. This is from a brother in South Africa, Mr. Fuller. He says this, Mr. Bobby, could you ask Mr. Fuller if he has the compensatory definition of the term romantic, which sometimes refers to expression of love when a man and a woman are in a relationship? I find the use of the term slightly confusing, particularly when I read about the history of the Roman empires.
Oh, romantic. I think that's in the word guide that I've written. I remember putting that in there. M-N, let's see, under romance, that's under aura. So let's see if we can find that right quick. I'm fingering through my book right now. Trying to see if I can come up with that. Yeah. Let's see, where is that?
Okay, while you're doing that, I'm going to get my copy.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have it here somewhere.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. I think I have it. But romance, to the audience here, it's you really, you do the same thing that the person is doing is calling in. When people use that term, you ask the person, what do you mean by being romantic? In the way of the Romans? Is that what you mean? Mm-hmm. You can ask that and let the person explain what he or she means by romance or romantic.
I'm looking through my...
Here it is on page 345.
Okay, wait a minute.
Of the word guide.
345.
Of the counter-racist word guide.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Said, use this word with caution. Do not use it to mean the same as the words love or affection. Use the words romance or romantic to apply to thought, speech, and or action that is, in effect, thrilling, exciting, soothing, and or productive of temporary or artificial gentle pleasure. The term gentle pleasure is in quotes. Artificial, temporary. This is the way that I choose to define it. This is my definition. Use this word with caution, but if you insist on using it, you do not use it to mean the same as the words love or affection. That's how it starts off. don't use it to mean the same as the words love or affection.
Yes.
Romance, in the way I see it used and the way I've always heard it and the way I've seen it applied, it's an act. It's artificial. Okay? Use the words romance or romantic to apply to thought, speech, and our action that is, in effect, thrilling, exciting, soothing, and or productive of temporary or artificial gentle pleasure to the mind and our senses. Now, when others use the words romance and or romantic, ask for a detailed explanation that you can easily understand.
Okay.
And you can ask questions. Are we fixing to go to commercial?
No. Just I'm going to let you finish your thought, and then we'll go to that.
All right. And so some questions you can ask is romance the same as love? Just ask the person who says that, are you romantic? Or, or should we be romantic? Then you ask them some questions. Is romance the same as love? Because you want to know what the person who is using the word means. Is romance the same as affection? Does romance include justice? Balance between people? Does romance necessarily include honesty and sincerity? Instead of using the word romance, is it better to use the word attraction? What attracts one person to another? Or what does attract one person to another? What attracts one person to another romantically? What does attract one person to another romantically? During the existence of white supremacy, does romance mean between and among non-white people have the same meaning as romance between and among white people? If so, why? How? If not, why not? So, and then it goes on to say other things like in this definition. So, is it silly or pitiful for a non-white person to attempt to be romantic while subject to the system of white supremacy? Is romantic activity among non-white people no more than a pitiful and theatrical imitation of constructive attraction? See?
So you're constantly...
In other words, there's just a whole bunch of questions that you ask when somebody mentions the word romance or romantic. Just start asking a series of questions. What do you mean by that? What does it mean at the end of the day when a person proves him or herself to be romantic? What is that supposed to mean? I mean, is it the same as justice? Meaning you're going to guarantee that nobody's mistreated? And that the person that needs help the most is going to get the most constructive help? Or what does it mean? Does it mean, what is the candlelight and roses? You say that's romantic. Well, what does candlelight have to do with love and affection? What do roses have to do with it? And you say, well, that's a sign of, it's a symbol of being romantic. Well, yeah, but what is romantic? And what purpose does it serve?
So you're constantly asking questions.
Anytime, it's just like any other word. When a person uses a word that may mean one thing to one person and something else to somebody else, you ask the person who is using the word exactly what that person means when that person uses it.
Okay.
And romance is among that bunch.
All righty.
Use the word with caution.
All right, let's do this. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTainmentRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby, and I am the co-host on this program, The Compensatory Concept, with Mr. Neely Fuller. The phone lines are now open. You can call at 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me at the numeral 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. But it is at this time that we set aside for Mr. Fuller to talk about his book. Mr. Fuller?
You can get the basic book and the word guide that I just read from by going to producejustice.com. That's producejustice.com. diaspora.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of the contents, the title and contents of the revised expanded edition of the 1984 edition, even though the 1984 edition is up there on that website too. That's the original in the form that it's in, the original basic form. There were forms before that, but the 1984 edition was the first official edition to come out that was composite and not in the form of just loose pages, loose leaf pages, you might say, a formal book. And that's the original, the 1984 edition. It has a checkerboard pattern or a computer-type pattern on the cover. But the revised expanded edition says explicitly on the cover that it's the 2016 edition, not the 1984 edition. But some people said they liked the 1984 edition, even though the revised expanded edition covers just about everything that's in the original edition, and then has many, many, many more additions. That's the compensatory counter-racist code. It doesn't have the computer design on it. And you can get this revised expanded edition or the original edition and the word guide, if you want that I just finished reading from, by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. But I recommend that a person get the basic book to start with, the revised expanded edition. That's just my own recommendation, because that's the core book.
Mm-hmm.
The word guide is an addition, and say so on the cover, to the core book, to the revised expanded edition that came out in 2010. The word guide came out before the revised expanded edition came out, because that was presumably the revised expanded edition, the word guide being an addition to the original. And it might be a little confusing to some people, but the revised expanded 2016 edition is the core book. The word guide is an addition to the core book.
Okay.
Go to producejustice.com and you'll see it there with a brief description.
Alrighty. 1-877-932, pardon me, 932-9766 as my voice is trying to leave me. Let's go to the Gmails. This comes from Brother Weston. He says this, Mr. Fuller, you need to give credit to the North Sentinelese and not all credit to the white supremacists, because sure, they could drop bombs over that island and wipe them out, but this tribe of black people is the only one in the entire planet to resist and not be colonized in 60,000 years of being there. They withstood the natural disasters of the colonizers like Marco Polo, Columbus, and others trying to go over there and Christianize them. If the white supremacists tried bombing the island, it could set off another tsunami like the one back in 2004, or maybe starting World War III, since they would have violated Indian law, which protects these Sentinelese people. So white supremacists, logical as you teach us, and it's not, or ever been in their best interest to do so. Last, Mr. Fuller, I'd like to say that we as black folk around the world should model ourselves after them, because they're a prime example of a group of black people who are on code in and on one accord, which is how they've been able to survive all these thousands of years without any dependence on white supremacy. They may not have five-star restaurants, mansions, luxury cars, expensive jewelry, or entertainment the way we know it, but they got their peace of mind and are free to be who they are. I was speaking, I think Brother Watson was speaking of the white journalist that went over there, or whatever he was, to bring Christianity to these people, and they shot him with arrows and killed him. Your thoughts on that, Mr. Fuller?
Well, that comes under VGQ.
Exactly.
Right. Victims guaranteed qualification. The person who is making this suggestion, they're qualified to make that suggestion. See, I have my own ideas, and they are in the textbook for victims about the concept of universal man, universal woman. And they wouldn't be in that primitive state, but at the same time, they would have some characteristics of the people that you're talking about. But at the same time, my vision, the vision that I have for non-white people, is not to model after anybody that now exists anywhere on the planet, because there are no people on the planet now, or the quality of people, in my opinion, are nowhere near the quality of people that people should be. I have a much greater vision, you might say, in my opinion, of what the people on this planet should be. That shouldn't be, for one thing, it shouldn't be any such thing as a person killing a person. That should be something completely unheard of in universal man and universal woman. I mean, if someone even starts a rumor like that, I mean, no one would believe it. So are you telling me that a person killed another person? And on this planet now, this is prevalent among all people as far as I know, that you don't have any society where people don't kill people deliberately, willfully and deliberately. Not by accident, but willfully and deliberately. Kill people, and you don't think anything of it. You just turn the page every day. I mean, people killing people all over the place. People getting medals for killing people. I mean, people having all kind of ceremonies for people who kill people, who are dedicated to killing people, and making them heroes and whatnot. Your greatest heroes all over the world. When you welcome people, look at the airports and whatnot, of the welcoming committee. And I've mentioned this before, the welcoming groups. If a person lands, and being welcomed by a people that are supposed to be civilized, most places all over the planet, you get a welcoming committee made up of what? Soldiers, people who are receiving you carrying guns.
Okay, excuse me, Mr. Fuller, I'll have to leave it there, but we can pick that back up in the second hour.
Yes,
TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio, radio the way it should be heard. Stay tuned for the second hour.
Thanks for listening to The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio.
The most important question in all racial matters is why. One should always ask it.
Radio, the way it should be heard.
You've got the power. The world's greatest radio. TalkTainmentRadio.com. Talktainment Radio, worldwide sound. TalkTainmentRadio.com. We give you a reason to come. The world's greatest radio. We give you a reason to stay. Radio, the way it should be heard. You got the power.
The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of TalkTainmentRadio.com, the management, the staff, or K&E World Network, LLC.
Live call-in talk show. Dial 1-877-932-9766 and join the conversation here on TalkTainmentRadio.com.
This is The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller, heard exclusively on TalkTainmentRadio.com, the world's greatest radio. Radio, the way it should be heard. And now, Mr. Neely Fuller.
If you do not understand white supremacy, which is racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Only confuse you. Only confuse.
TalkTainmentRadio.com. We go where you go, the world's greatest radio. You are now in touch with The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. I am the co-host, Mr. Bobby, and this is Radio the Way It Should Be Heard. We've been talking or opening up the program with the role of distractions in the system of white supremacy, racism, and Mr. Fuller touched all over that bad boy in the first hour, and we're going to continue it here in the second hour. Now, if you would like to call, you can by calling 1-877-932-9766, or you can Gmail me, as many of you have, at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, B-O-B-B-Y, at gmail.com, and we will answer your questions. We ended up the first hour talking about you mentioned something about a welcoming committee, Mr. Fuller, if you would like to continue that thought.
No, I was talking about, just look at television, and when you see big ceremonies going on, like a president or a king or someone being welcomed among a bunch of people, look at who is out there to receive them. Usually it's a whole bunch of people who are carrying guns or swords or something that's designed to kill people. This is insanity on a massive, glamorized scale. I mean, you see people, in their very best, all dressed up, but carrying guns and swords. This is a welcoming committee. This is a welcoming group. That's no way to welcome anybody. And we walk down a long line of people standing at attention. All of them got guns and swords. Got swords on the end of the guns. And standing there all ready to do battle. That's not any civilized way of doing anything, if you stop and think about it. But we take it for granted that this is wonderful. This is beautiful. This is the way it should be. We're just as crazy as we can be. We people who are supposed to be representing our Creator on this planet called Earth are just as insane as we can get. All of us. And the white supremacists make it even more so. Just because they have the glamorized skill and the technical ability to make things. Because that's the most distinctive thing that they do, other than to practice slaughtering people and making fun of people on the basis of their color. Oh. That's what they do. That's their business. That's the people that dominate the planet. And they're an insult to the Creator, all of them. And they make us the same thing. And I just want to put that big footnote in there.
Okay. With respect to our subject matter for today, which is distractions, could that be, this is before I get to a Gmail, could that be the reason why there was, when Air Force One landed with the body of former President George Herbert Walker Bush land, I believe it was at Andrews Air Force Base, I saw some cannons in the background that went off, and I did see military personnel, some dressed, well, they were all in uniform, but some did have rifles with, I think it was bayonets attached to the end of it, and a long light. Could that possibly be the reason for that as a distraction?
Well, people can draw their own conclusions. I just stick by what I said. Is that the way to welcome people? In a civilized society. You're welcoming people, or you're inviting people. Like inviting someone into your home. Did you meet them at the door with a gun? Stop and think about it. Stop and back off and look at the world the way it's run.
Yes, sir.
It's just as insane as it can possibly be. It's sophisticated insanity, but it's insanity nonetheless. The more technically competent the people of this planet become, the crazier we become in how to interact with people. And we don't even see it, and don't want to see it, many of us. And the white supremacists certainly don't want to see it, because they're just sitting around trying to design another way of practicing evil, mistreating people on the basis of color, and calling it fun. That's their chief form of value systems. That's the chief value system of a white supremacist. Mistreating people on the basis of color and getting fun, glory, and a lot of material gain out of doing so. And they're teaching everybody else to fall into that pattern on a minor scale. and you go among the non-white people, you get the same thing. I mean, even people who have, I mean, they cannot feed their population, but you go to visit them, and they're copying off the white supremacists with that kind of royalist nonsense.
Yes, sir.
I mean, coming out there with swords, I mean, stuck in on their sides, in their holsters for swords. I mean, a king or a queen, and you'll see people sometimes on horseback. I mean, and even when people have what? Weddings. You see people doing what? Standing on each side, and the bride and groom come under what? Swords that are crossed right over their heads. What are you getting ready to do? Chop their heads off? At a bridal ceremony? Stop and think about it. Absolute insanity. That's not a decent way. What kind of message are you sending to young people? Which is why they're running all up and down the street every day, shooting at each other. Bang, bang, fall down, you're dead. Ha, ha, ha. Ain't that fun? And we just think it's what? Normal. That's what we call normal. We call that civilized. And people who do that type of thing, we call them what? Patriots. Mm-hmm. When you put that label patriot on someone, for the most part, you're talking about somebody who killed somebody, who's trying to kill somebody, who's thinking about killing somebody.
Okay. Killing.
Destruction.
Alrighty. Let's take a phone call. Good morning. You're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yes, Mr. Fuller, the insanity that you're discussing, is it an example of that insanity seen at the funeral of soldiers, where the soldier was killed by a gun or some type of explosion, and they have a 21-gun salute to send the soldier off? They're saluting the soldier who was killed by guns, by shooting guns?
Absolutely. Now, the very thing that the soldier doesn't, I guess, who's dead, if he's got any bit of sanity, doesn't want to hear, and that's gunfire, that's the very thing they do even when he's dead. Now, if that's not crazy, I don't know what crazy is. You're supposed to have, everything is supposed to be serene, quiet. That's what, hey, I'm a soldier. I was looking for peace and quiet anytime I could get it. I don't want to hear any gunfire, period. Even as a soldier, which they made me be, which I didn't have any business being. I mean, they should have exempted me. Just took a look at who I was, my color, and say, hey, you've been through enough agony. You don't need to be put through any more. No.
Okay.
We'll have somebody else. I mean, listen to the sound of gunfire. You don't need to hear no more of that. You don't need to have anybody chasing you, trying to kill you. That's what we did to your grandfather. All right?
Yeah. 1-877-932-9766 is the number. Phone lines are now open. Or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby, BOBBY, at gmail.com. I have a Gmail here. It says, Mr. Fuller, I have a question and thought to present to you. And for the listening audience. First, Mr. Fuller, are you aware that you basically quoted lyrics from the Motown classic Ain't No Mountain High Enough toward the end of the first hour of last week's show when describing the white supremacist? You mentioned how there's nowhere we can go, nowhere to run, etc., to escape his clutches. And so after that thought, what also went through my mind, since this is a holiday season and a classic carol, Santa Claus is coming to town. Some of the lyrics go, he knows when you are sleeping, he knows when you're awake, he knows when you've been bad or good. Then finally I thought about the Delphonics classic, Ready or Not, Here I Come, Can't Hide, Gonna Find You. So being universal man and universal woman, I want us all to explore the lyrics to songs such as these and consider that who is really being described, not as superheroes, boyfriends, lovers, godly or celestial beings, but the white supremacist himself, who unfortunately still has control over this universe. I know that wasn't the intention of the original writers, especially with Ready or Not, It Ain't No Mountain High Enough, but in actuality, that's who they're describing based on what you, Mr. Fuller, have taught us about the power, strength, and overall reach of the white supremacists. Any thoughts you have on that, Mr. Fuller?
Well, it could be. I hadn't thought about that, but I will think about it, because anytime somebody calls in and whatnot, it's my duty to think about what they are saying and to consider it for what value it may have in helping to find truth in order to produce a product called justice and correctness, and eventually produce a universal man and a universal woman, which is what our objective, in my opinion, should be, and which we don't have anywhere in the known universe at this time, because of the systems that we're subject to and the systems that we are stuck on and bragging about, which are inferior systems to what, according to what I think is correct thinking, all the systems that have come up so far, all the religions so far, have not done the job that they're supposed to be doing for producing quality people. According to what? Neely Fuller? No, according to the evidence. I mean, everything is in turmoil. It's a double lock on every door in what we call civilized societies. That's an indication right now that something is out of order. On every door, you got locks. Not supposed to be locks on doors. That person that was in that Porgy and Bess song, I got no lock on the door, that's no way to be. Mm-hmm. Now that's an excellent line there, because that isn't the way to be. That is an indication that something is out of order right there.
Out of balance.
A lock on a door.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't have to go into a door and look around and make sure it's locked behind you. Nowhere on the planet. And until we get a planet where that is the case, where you don't have it, we are nowhere near what we call, quote, unquote, civilized. None of us. Period.
But a system of justice would open those doors that are double locked.
Absolutely. Door standing wide open, and you can leave there, and when you come back, your door is still wide open, and nothing is missing, because nobody will take nothing from you without your permission. They will ask you, can I have this or can I have that? And if you say, no, I'm keeping this for myself, that's the end of that story. That's the kind of world we should want. The kind of world that we should produce under universal man and universal woman. I mean, people don't go around calling each other names. A world in which that does not happen.
Mm-hmm. Or
calling people dogs and all like that. No, that doesn't happen. You don't do that. You don't do that.
Or could you say using distractions? Maybe two people agree to distract you by coming out of that house that you just described with the door unlocked. So while one is speaking with you, the other goes in and steals your stuff.
Oh, sure. Well, the system of white supremacy actually brags about being like that. Mm-hmm. Turn on television at 3 o'clock in the morning and start flipping channels and see if you don't see something that glorifies murder. You're going to see it. It's going to be there. Murder on the Orient Express, murder in the attic, the headless corpse, the body in the basement. And what do they call these great books? Big glossy books that cost $50 each. I mean, 700 pages of nothing but murder. Who done it?
Yeah, murder mysteries, I think they
call them murder mysteries. I mean, more of that in a bookstore in what we call civilized societies than any other books in the bookstore. Books that glorify killing. And then you pick up the newspaper and want to know how come this 16-year-old is running around with a gun in his hand, killing people in gangs and whatnot. Well, duh. I mean, you got your answer. That's what you raised. That's the kind of society you have. These are your heroes and sheroes. People that kill people. People that beat people up. Throw people off of rooftops and all that type of stuff. A body. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yes. A person, if you look at how a person is designed, a brain, hands, fingernails. I mean, you look at all the things that the way, just look at a person as some type of machine. And look at all the things that machine can do. All of that intricate wiring that's in each person. Each little baby that's born has all kinds of wiring. We call them nerves.
Yes.
And the baby does this, the baby does that. The baby grows. That's a phenomenon. The baby doesn't remain the same size. It grows. And then it grows to a certain size, and then it doesn't grow anymore because it's now prepared to do things, to put up big buildings, to cross rivers, to analyze things, to chop down trees, to grow crops. Now, a person, when you look at a person, you are looking at something that's put together real well.
Intelligently.
Man. I mean, if you just stop and think about it, the blood that is in that person's vein, that people write books about how they spill that blood. Blood is precious. Blood goes through a person's brains and body and does a lot of intricate things according to what I've been told.
Yes, sir.
Blood is very important to a person's body. Now you have people going around spending hours and days and months and years studying how to spill blood. All right? And then writing books about it. And you have a person on the cover of a glossy book, a big expensive book, in a bookstore. And you'll see that person that was once breathing, could once move around and do constructive things, now lying down with blood gushing out of his or her mouth, out of his or her ears.
Yes, sir.
Or abdomen. And that's supposed to be cute. And we call that, a casualty or a body count. Murder. War. Oh, that's wonderful. Just as crazy as we can be. And call ourselves civilized.
TalkTameItRadio.com is a 24/7 no-charge worldwide broadcasting facility with hosts delivering on various topics such as news, lifestyle, sports, law, health, wellness, religion, and politics. Now, here's one that I am going to share with you right now, and it is called New Money. And the way things are going on right now, that is one show that you would want to invest your ears in listening to, and suggestions and ideas. It is hosted by Drew and Janae, and all you have to do is go to the TalkTameItRadio.com homepage, click on programs for the scheduled times of that show and other shows. And these shows are exclusive to TalkTameItRadio.com. That's radio the way it should be heard. My name is Mr. Bobby. I am the co-host on the compensatory concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. We do invite your calls, as we have one online now. 1-877-932-9766 is the number you can call, or you can Gmail me at the numero 7, Mr. Bobby at gmail.com. Let's go to the phone lines. Okay, caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead with your question.
Good morning. How are you doing today, Mr. Fuller?
I'm still learning.
Great. I am also. Hey, I wanted to ask you a question about respect and disrespect. I've been listening to a lot of your videos on that, and it makes a lot of sense. I wanted to first make a quick comment that ever since we were children, adults always told us to, hey, don't let, you can't tolerate any disrespect. Don't let don't let none of those other kids disrespect you. So we've been taught that since kids. But I wanted to ask you this. A black female that I know was recently in the store, and she was accused of stealing when all she was doing was getting some money out the ATM. She went in the store, went to the ATM, and it was just like a local little store, and the owner sent one of the workers out to follow her, and the guy was pretty much, I'm sorry, it was another woman. She was harassing her and saying, well, you stole out the store. And so they went back in, and long story short, the black female who I know kind of lost her cool, and she started to cuss, and I know that's regular when that happens to us. But I guess my question is how could have she have handled this better? And also, I know you said that nobody can disrespect you. It's impossible. But you also threw in there, you said, unless they're telling a lie. And this was a lie that she stole, and they even admitted it later.
No, well, even if a person is lying on you, it doesn't have anything to do with respect. That's just a person lying, saying something is not true. That has nothing to do with that word respect. We should give a definition to the word respect, and I tried to give a compensatory definition for it, a definition to make up for what I say is the way the word is used is incorrect. And that is, respect is regard for yourself. And regard for yourself should be based on truth, justice, and correctness. And once you acquire that, but also, literally, the way I put it in the textbook, give it a definition. And the compensatory definition I gave to the word respect is refusing to lie to yourself. Don't tell yourself something that you know is not true and try to make it true. And you keep believing something or trying to believe something that you know is not true. Therefore, with that kind of definition, it's impossible for anybody else to disrespect you. It can't be done because it doesn't fit the definition. Now, a person can be discourteous, or a person can accuse you of a crime, but that has nothing to do with respect. That has to do with a person accusing you of a crime. So what do you do when a person accuses you of a crime? That's the question, not the respect factor. It got nothing to do with respect. You're being accused of doing something that you didn't do. So what you do is just do what? When you're accused of doing something that you didn't do, you reveal the truth. And what is the truth? You didn't do what they accused you of doing. This happened to me recently, just about 2 weeks ago. I was going out of a store, and all of a sudden, two people came up to me and say, let me see what's in your bag. You didn't pay for that. You don't walk out of here without paying for that. And it was a black lady, and I did what the code calls for me to do. I said, well, that is an error, so I did pay for it. She said, let me see your receipt. And I showed her the receipt, and she looked at it, and she said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And I said, thank you very much. And I walked on. It didn't call for anything except just to correct something that needed corrected. It had nothing to do with respect. It had nothing. I was accused of doing something that I didn't do. And I revealed the truth that I didn't do what I was accused of doing, which is the correct way of doing it according to counter-racist logic and according to compensatory logic and according to the rules that I would adhere to if we had achieved universal man and universal woman. Someone makes a mistake and makes an accusation against me, regardless of the reason, I just clear up the accusation. And if the accusation is true, hey, you go with the truth. Say, yeah, well, I took it, but I forgot to pay for it, if that's the truth. Okay? But that wasn't the case. I just revealed the truth. That's all. It doesn't call for any drama. black people have been taught systematically that everything calls for a whole lot of screaming, yelling, drama. And we can change that immediately simply by saying, hey, that's not the type of people we're going to be. We're going to be an improved people. Not only improved people, we're going to be the best that anybody could ever be or ever was in the history of the entire world. And that means no cussing, fussing, and all the rest of this nonsense when it's not necessary to do so. All right?
Mm-hmm.
Just clear up the matter. Be scientific. I think that I handle that in a scientific manner. I simply said there was a mistake made. I didn't make the mistake, but I will point out where the mistake was made. There was a suspicion that I had stolen something or failed to pay, at least. And I did pay.
Mm-hmm.
See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And I cleared it up. And it took a couple of minutes and no drama.
So that proves what you have often said on this program and other programs: never ask for love, an apology, or respect.
No, never. Never asked for those three things, ever.
And you never felt disrespected?
Even if a person is trying to disrespect me, it's impossible. Why? Because respect means I refuse to lie to myself. That's the definition. People usually confuse respect with what? Courtesy. Now, a person can be discourteous, but that's on them. That has nothing to do with me either. If a person walks up and starts calling me all kind of names, that doesn't have anything to do with respect.
Mm-hmm.
It has something to do with courtesy, but that courtesy is not coming from me, that discourtesy. See what I mean?
Yes, sir.
It's not coming from me, it's coming from them. So that's them being discourteous.
Okay.
I'm going to be courteous.
All right.
I don't care how discourteous they are.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to, even the person that's calling me names, I'm going to say ma'am and sir to that person.
All right.
That's cursing my mother. All right? It's still ma'am and sir when I talk to the person, because that's what I do. That's my code. I don't go by their code.
Okay. Let me pause here, and maybe we can pick that up on the other side of the break. Mr. Fuller, before we go into a Gmail, would you like to finish your thought or go on to the Gmail?
We'll go to the email.
Okay. This one says this. It says, "Good rising, Mr. Fuller and Mr. Bobby. First, I would like to thank Mr. Fuller for producing the Counter-Racist Code textbook. Thank you very much. My question is, will the textbook ever become available in audio form? There are many people I know who struggle with reading, but are very interested in the textbook, but it would be easier for them to listen to the book instead of reading it. Thank you. I'll wait for your response."
Well, that has been suggested, and that is on the table, because I would like for people to understand everything that's in the book, whether they agree with it or not. All people who are classified as non-white throughout the entire planet, and they take it for what it's worth as individuals, because the book is addressed to individual persons. So, yes, anything that would help to do that, I am all for it.
Yes, sir.
But I don't see how I'm going to be able to do that with the time that I have at this present time. I mean, I hope that I have enough time to do a lot of things that I have in my mind to do.
Yes, sir.
So, in answer to the question, I would like to see that happen at some point. But right now, I'm not in the process of doing it. I'm in the process of just trying to get the book out right now, for the most part, in places where it's not available. Now, with keeping it in mind that I would like translations even somewhere down the road and expedite that. But, yes, in answer to the question, in every way that I can, because to me, that's the missing link. That's the one thing we don't have. The races have a code. That's why they're successful. Anything that's successful is codified. Plumbing code, electrical code, anything that you can name, a housing code. If you do, you have houses that If they are built to a certain specification, they'll withstand hurricanes. But they have to be up to code to do that. All right? And so codification is about just choosing the very best way to go about doing everything. The best way to even talk to someone, word for word, all day long. The words that you say, the words that you don't say. We don't have anything like that. We have what we might call black culture or black code or ghetto code, and it has not served us at all. It's a zero code. I mean, it's a code, but it's raggedy. I mean, because it's not problem solving. It makes more problems than it solves. What we call black culture, truth be told, winds up making more problems. By culture, what do we mean by black culture? We mean what black people actually do.
Yes, sir.
Not what we say in the history books and all like that, but what you do every minute, the way you talk to people, the way people talk to you, the way you have conversations, the things you're interested in doing, the things you want to do, the things you are doing. That's all culture. Culture is what you're doing and saying. That's all any culture ever was or ever will be. And what black people do and say has not served us well. All the things that we value has not served us well. And it's raggedy. It's tacky at very best and terroristic at the worst.
Trashy.
Yes, trashy. I mean, put that word in there. You turn on television. I mean, you can expect a lot of things that black people brag about and glorify in and wallow in is absolute trash if we look at it for its constructive value. See, everything is divided into those two categories, constructive, non-constructive. So when you look at the way that black people even talk, I mean, sometimes it's just painful, absolutely painful. The things that we say that we think are that we glorify and think are so cute and so wonderful and so black, is just as tacky, trashy, or terroristic as it can possibly be.
Yes, sir.
Everything falls into one of those three categories. We don't do anything outside of that. Tacky is tacky at very best. And if you try to improve on the tackiness, then it becomes trashy. If you try to improve on the trashiness, then it becomes terroristic. 1, 2, 3. Everything in that order. And it's because that's the white supremacists have orchestrated our thinking.
Okay.
We're not born thinking like that. That's ghetto thinking. And the ghetto was invented by the white supremacists.
Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, you are now on with Mr. Fuller. What is your question?
Hi, Mr. Bobby. Hi, Mr. Fuller. My question is, why do black Americans don't go back home in Africa and invest? That's my question, because we have the Chinese and we have the Japanese and we have even white people in Africa owning land and they own businesses. Why do black people don't go back home in Africa and invest?
Okay.
I'm from West Africa, specifically Cameroon, and $2,000 in my country is $1 million. Truth be told, $2,000 is $1 million in my country. So you can just imagine what you can do with $1 million francs in my country. So I want to know why black Americans don't go back home and invest. That's our homeland.
Okay.
We have been taught to hate Africa. We have been taught to have nothing to do with Africa. That's where our ancestors came from. That's our homeland. We can't build any business here in America because the white people are going to shut it down. They don't want any economic empowerment. That is the threat to white supremacy. Why don't we go to Africa and build Africa up?
Okay, let's give Mr. Fuller a chance to answer your 4 or 5 questions that you keep adding on to. Mr. Fuller?
Well, I'm black and I haven't gone there, so that would address me too, since I am not in what they call Africa. But I ask myself, why is it I am not in Africa, building Africa up? Now, First thing I have to ask myself, what is it that I would take to Africa that I have here to take? And the answer is absolutely nothing. And every African that would be there to welcome me if I went anywhere on what I call the mother continent, every African would ask that question. Now that you're here, what can you help us do? And the truth be told, talking about Neely Fuller now, absolutely nothing. Because Neely Fuller wasn't doing anything where he came from. And I think that applies to the black people who are here in what we call the Northwestern Hemisphere or the Southern Hemisphere, like Brazil. If all the black people in Brazil, which I understand is a huge population, left those areas where they are from and went to Africa today, I think that most Africans would say, go back where you came from because you didn't bring anything here except what you were doing where you were. And what you were doing where you were killing each other up in those hills up there overlooking Rio, the city of God. That's where you came from. But you brought here a lot of gangs causing death and destruction, and a lot of culture in the Northwestern Hemisphere that glorified hurting people, which is a huge part of black culture. So what would the black people in other parts of the world who congregated, suddenly got on planes as of today and went to any part of what we call the motherland, what will we actually be bringing there? We will be bringing what we have here. And I don't think anybody who knows anything about the people, black people here, who are in Africa, who have been here, among the black people here in the Northwestern Hemisphere, would want to have to put up with the stuff that we have to put out when we are among ourselves. Because what we do here is what we'll be doing there. And that's the truth.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be constructive. Because we're not doing anything constructive here, and that's the truth.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's go to the phone lines again. Caller, you're on with Mr. Fuller. Go ahead.
Yes, good morning. My question today, I just would like for Mr. Fuller to give an explanation, I guess kind of keeping with the distraction topic of, since we're in that time of year, how holidays are used as a distraction for non-white people.
Good question. Mr. Fuller?
Absolutely. In other words, every day, first of all, let's get the definitions. Holiday. Holiday means holy day and a whole day. So every day is a whole day. So every day is a holiday or a holy day. There's no such thing as a separate day from another day. Whatever created the universe, most of these days are days and nights, 24 hours, consisting of a day and a night. That's what we call is segmented into 24 hours. All of these days are whole days. All of these days are holy days, which holy just means whole. It means complete. So it's what you do with those days. And what you're supposed to be doing every day is what? Something of constructive value. And that's all. I mean, this stuff of picking out a certain day to start buying stuff, that's something somebody else thought of. Somebody like whom? Well, among the white supremacists, for instance. And among non-white people, they cause non-white people to go into debt simply because of a date, quote unquote, on a calendar. And you don't do that. So stop doing it. Put away those credit cards. Hide them from yourself when these so-called dates come around when you're supposed to go out and buy stuff. Buy stuff for what? What are you doing it for? Stop and think. Say, well, I want to give gifts to my associates, the people that I know. Well, you do that every day. You do that every day by giving them some information, for one thing, that they can use that will help them to do something of constructive value. Relate to people every day. Don't set aside a day of any kind. Mm-hmm. That's what I envision for universal man, universal woman. We don't have any holidays because every day is a whole day.
Yes, sir.
You do the same thing every day that you do on one day that you did on another day, and that is do everything of constructive value that you can possibly do. I mean, to account for that day that you have been given by whatever created you and whatever created the day that you are put in. You use that to do the most constructive things. You don't set aside any dates. That's something that somebody thought of that we got in the habit of.
Yes,
There's
sir.
no such thing as setting aside dates. All dates are important.
All right.
All minutes, every minute that you are breathing is an important minute. Use it as such.
All right. Before we talk about your book, let's take this call. Go ahead, caller. You are on with Mr. Fuller.
Good morning, gentlemen. My question revolves around the Christmas holy day. Every year we see Santa Claus on the news. They'll show on the weather. The meteorologist will state Santa Claus is over this state, and they'll show a little depiction. With that being said, and we know that that's an imaginary character, would it be illogical to even listen to any of the news? Would we have to discredit any and everything that we hear on the news, expanding beyond that? If they can have lies like that, would it be logical to think that all of the news that we see has some sort of lie and distraction built into it?
Mr. Fuller?
The answer is yes, because we're in a world dominated by the white supremacists. And the white supremacists do not do anything, underline anything, that they do not perceive as giving greater strength to the system of white supremacy. And that's in any area of activity. Economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, or war. If a white supremacist has anything to do with it, it is intentionally designed, in their opinion, to give greater strength to the system of white supremacy. And that includes celebrations of any kind, including holidays. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't give strength to the system of white supremacy, they don't want to have anything to do with it. And they're not going to help promote it.
Okay.
That's their philosophy.
That's their philosophy. Okay. TalkTameRadio.com. We go where you go. Download the TalkTameRadio.com app to your cell or to your tablet. That's radio the way it should be heard. Excuse me. I apologize for that. My name is Mr. Bobby, and I'm the co-host of The Compensatory Concept with Mr. Neely Fuller. And our topic is distractions. Now, caller, you hold on because we have to give this space to Mr. Fuller to talk about his book, and then we will come back to you. Mr. Fuller, speak to your book here.
Yes, you can get the book by going to producejustice.com. Producejustice.com. Because everything that we're saying, that's what we're supposed to wind up with in this codification process. We're supposed to wind up with one of the things. The main thing is a thing called justice. So that's the website title, producejustice.com. And what will come up on the screen is a brief description of a compensatory counter-racist code, revised expanded edition as of 2016, and the word guide that came out in 2010 prior to the revised expanded edition. That's an addition to that. And
go ahead, Mr. Fuller. I don't know what that is, but go ahead.
And the basic book and the word guide is supposed to be designed to help a person to think, speak, and act in such manner as to get the best results in whatever it is that they are doing that is of constructive value. That's what they're designed to do. The individual person is addressed to individual people. And when I started writing the book, I had that in mind.
Yes, sir.
When I started assembling the book, I had it in mind that the solution to the race problem and all the problems that fall out from that and any other problems are, first of all, to give strength, correct strength, to the individual person. Because the theory is, if you make every person a universal man, a universal woman, a problem solver, every person is a problem solver, not a problem maker, you automatically, mathematically, solve the problems of the entire world. If every person is a problem solver, then you don't have anybody making problems. You have everybody solving problems. It can't get any better than that. And it has to be done with each individual person. Make each individual person a problem solver, a constructive person in every area of activity, 24/7, not a problem maker. A person that solves problems without making any. That's the slogan.
Mm-hmm.
Solve problems without making any.
Okay.
But you can go to the textbook for victims of white supremacy by going to producejustice.com.
Okay. Okay, we got about 4 minutes. Caller, go ahead, ask your question, and then give Mr. Fuller a chance to answer it. Go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Fuller. Thank you for receiving my call. I have an evaluation, and in the evaluation, I'm a teacher, and, my evaluator from the district keeps putting things in there like I'm not going to meetings, I'm not explicitly teaching to my students' IEP goals, which I am. So how do I, when they come and observe you, it's subjective, their view of it, but how do you suggest that I fight back in terms of, I've been teaching for 10 years, I know what I'm doing in terms of, teaching, but how do I fight this in terms of, what she's putting in my evaluation?
A person is putting something in your evaluation that shouldn't be there?
Yes.
Okay. You question line by line what is put there and say, is this true? And if it is true, find out why it is true, or should it be true? That's the second question. This evaluation that you're putting down, is it true? And should it be true? And if it is true, or if it shouldn't be there because it is true, then how can we correct this? I mean, see, before the evaluation comes up, you're supposed to have something prior to that. And that is, it's 3 T's: telling, training, testing. But before you get to the test, now here's what people do on a lot of jobs. They will tell you what needs to be done, but they don't train you in getting it done. That's what they do to non-white people on many a job. They will train the white person, but they don't train the non-white person. Look for that. There's 3 T's here in employment of any kind: telling, training, testing. When it comes to non-white people, white supremacists on a job, or suspected white supremacists, will eliminate that second T when it comes to non-white people. They will tell you what needs to be done and then walk off. But they don't train you in how to do it. And then they'll come around later on and go straight to the third T, which is testing. They jump from telling to testing without the training. And then they test you, and then they say you're inefficient, or you're not doing it the correct way and all like that. Well, sure, that might be true. But why is it true? Because they didn't train you. See, they didn't walk you through it. See, when you train, I know about training because I was in military, where they better train you if somebody doesn't want to wind up dead. So they have you do the same thing over and over and over and over and again before they test you to see if you can do it on your own. So always look for that. A white person will go on a job and a black person will go on a job, but they will play a trick by jumping to that third T. Go from telling the first T to the third T and leave out that second T when it comes to the non-white person.
Mm-hmm.
They pull that trick all the time, and people are baffled by it, but that's all it is. It's very simple. They'll come around and say, you're not doing that right. Well, yeah, well, they never gave you the details of how to do it. They, well, you're supposed to know how to do it. No. When you come in here, you have told me, yeah, like you tell the other people, but you probably didn't know that. They were training the other people all the details, because there's always details on every job that's different from maybe the job that you was on at that other place.
Okay. Excuse me, Mr. Fuller, but they're telling me that we have to be able to wrap this up, or maybe we can pick that up. But thank you, Mr. Fuller, and thank you, callers and Gmailers, for all that you do. Talk to him at